Introduction to the Peerless Black Hand of the Heavenly Shield. Chapter 1. I read many books, don't lie to me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There is an ancient river called Jiang in the eastern wasteland of the ancient star Beidou. Its shape is like a running dragon, soaring towards the distance, with waves splashing and reflecting on the mountains, showcasing its grandeur. And right between these mountains and rivers, there is a young man lying on his back, holding a fishing rod, as if fishing for an eternal dragon. His eyebrows faintly displayed imperial aura, with boundless nobility. At a young age, he had a divine and jade-like appearance, which was astonishing. Of course, this requires ignoring some small details. Brother Ife, why do you use a straight hook when fishing? The porcelain doll, carved like powder and jade, huddled aside and asked curiously. Kai Xian. Because what I want to fish for is the big fish that the volunteer has hooked on. A meaningful reply from a young man named Ife. Is that right? The porcelain doll was momentarily surprised and puzzled, but Brother Ife, you've been fishing for half a year, haven't you? You spend an hour fishing every day, but why hasn't you caught a single fish even to this day? Ah. The youth's profound meaning seemed to completely shatter at this moment, falling to the ground. However, Jiang Ife still struggled to support himself. Kai Xian, you don't understand. He looked unfathomable and said, some fish, if they catch one, they don't have to worry for a lifetime. Do you understand? This is called a pattern. What's the use of ordinary fish, even if they catch 1,000 or so? Only the golden carp that can cross the dragon gate is what our cultivators are looking for. Oh. The porcelain doll seemed to understand but didn't say anything more. You can play by yourself on the side first. The young man waved his hand, afraid of hearing any more words from the heart of a shrimp or a pig. Those childlike words were without restraint and could break his defense. The porcelain doll obediently walked away. However, even if there is a lack of audience, it does not affect the youth's achievement. Even if fishing with a straight hook is not enough, how can a big fish catch the bait? Unless it is each with their own ulterior motives, one willing to fight and the other willing to suffer, then legend will unfold. In the end, the young man stood up in frustration, put away his fishing rod and basket, stretched his face, wandered around, found a beautiful small valley, and walked straight into it. After a busy day, Master Jiang decided to pull up 2 bundles of grass in the valley. Don't say it. Even if there are 2 handfuls of grass, it still has a vintage and a medicinal age of over 10 years. In fact, the vast area around this belongs to an ancient sacred family. The Jiang family, which can be considered as a relatively unimportant medicinal garden, dedicated to providing the initial needs of ordinary cultivators on their path of cultivation. I didn't catch the fish, but I caught a few grass, so it's not like I got nothing, right? The young man sighed and ignored the vast expanse of land that had already been reclaimed. Fishing is not shabby. Can I call it an air force if I don't catch any fish as a grand traveler? In his heart filled with sorrow and anger, he embarked on his journey back, but this time something completely different from the past happened. In the center of the boy's eyebrows, there was a flickering shadow of the divine furnace that seemed to exist but not exist, as if it was a warning, and it seemed to turn into a stunning blow at any moment, overturning the entire mountains and rivers. Ha! Jiang Ifei's mood was subtle, but his face remained calm and restrained from all abnormalities. At the same time, his depressed mood dissipated completely. Big fish. Hooked. As expected. When he walked a little further, he saw a big one in broad daylight, bright and clear. Young man, I see that your heaven is full and your bones are exquisite. You are a good cultivator. A white-haired old man stopped a pure and innocent young man by the side of the ginger water, as he said. If you don't enter my sect and practice my great dharma, you will surely become an emperor in the coming day, and your power will shake 3,000 realms. The old man's eyes shone with strange light, staring at the belly of the young boy. It was the place where the source of life was placed, and also the foundation for the cultivator to embark on the path of cultivation, known as the Sea of Sorrow. What a perfect cauldron furnace! The old man's heart was like a dream, with endless malice and greed in the deepest part of his eyes, and a demonic aura. Really? Really? Young Jiang Yifei looked delighted and extremely excited. My ancestor, who overcame endless hardships and pushed countless enemies horizontally, was able to cultivate the ultimate fruit position. Can I be on par with him? With just one scripture. The young boy's initial heart was shaking, but he quickly calmed down with suspicion on his face, staring at the old man and saying, I read a lot, don't lie to me. Emperors and emperors are also different, the old man said meaningfully. Emperor Evergrande, of course, is a meritorious participant in creation, majestic throughout history, and writes supreme scriptures. However, when it comes to legends, there are still more people on it. There is a supreme emperor who created myths. Even if he is a mortal body, he can still amaze immortals. Following the same path, even if you don't break free from the shackles, you can still achieve supreme success. The tone of the old man's voice gradually became profound and unpredictable, carrying an extraordinary rhythm, as if to symbolize the ages. Even the gods could not escape. However, at a critical moment, the young man's eyebrows lit up, and there seemed to be 9 ancient and mysterious words engraved deep in his soul, suppressing eternity and invincible by all means. Upon seeing this, the old man's pupils contracted, revealing a helpless expression as expected. He sought help from the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com and restrained his powers, hiding all his malice. The intelligence is true. This child is not simple and is highly valued by the Jiang family. He whispered softly in his heart, his mind swaying as he crossed mountains and rivers, communicating with a terrifying creature. Of course. The creature responded, shaking the ancient secret realm it was in. The dust of time was scattered throughout it, and from time to time, a brilliant divine source could be seen condensing time, preserving the chapters of history. As far as I know, shortly after the birth of this child, it alarmed the heritage of the Jiang family, an ancient holy land, and bestowed upon him a noble status, leading him into the temple where ancestors were worshipped. There must be a big secret inside this. That's why I let you take the opportunity to approach him. Master the secrets within it, while borrowing the resources of the Jiang family, cultivate the most perfect cauldron furnace, and forge the most solid foundation for the hope of our lineage, striving for the path of the emperor and even becoming immortal. In the end, this creature, like a demon ancestor, was actually a bit crazy. Becoming an immortal. The dream of the eternal emperor and the emperor. You may be invincible as a hero and dominate your life, but facing these 2 words, you are still as distant as the moon in a well. Becoming immortal. Becoming immortal. The old man's mind is fanatical, almost unable to control himself. Finally, he calmed down and patiently fooled the lonely hidden dragon in front of him. He has confidence in this and feels that he is very capable. Genius is just a genius. Those who fail to fulfill their talents will ultimately not be considered strong. And what about him? But it's a great power. What is great power? On the land of the eastern wilderness, there are so many holy sites and aristocratic families, and the main officials are only at this level. In Chapter 2, I immediately saw that you were not a good person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To cultivate a path is like climbing a ladder. Set sail from the secret realm of Luanhai, cross 4 levels, break through the bitter sea, play the spring of life, climb the divine bridge, and step on the other shore. This is just the beginning. Above it, there are the 5 heavens of the Tao Palace, the 4 extremes and 4 realms, and the 9 transformations of the dragon transformation. Finally, it is the secret realm of Sendai. Only by passing through 20.2 small realms can one become immortal. Not to mention great power. In the secret realm of Sendai, I stepped onto the 2nd layer of heaven. And in the 1st layer of heaven, there are 9 small realms. With such cultivation, can it be difficult to hold on to a little doll? The elderly are very confident. In fact, if it weren't for the terrifying aristocratic family behind the boy who was afraid of him, going crazy and overturning the entire land of the eastern wilderness, why would he need to put so much effort into it? His colleagues don't need to be very rational when they step into the mysterious world. You have to be convinced. If you don't, you have to be convinced. If you are asked to make a cauldron furnace, you must make a cauldron furnace. Where is it like here? To deceive, to deceive. At an old age, fooling a teenager of 11 or 2 can be said to be far from the original. Fortunately, the process is difficult, and the result is beautiful. How can a child play with an old fox? With some means, the boy seemed to have let go of his guard and actively led the wolf into the room. Teach me. Teach me quickly. The young man shouted, innocent and full of longing. All right. All right. All right. Under the friendly expression of the old man, there was a sense of contentment and joy. He took out an ancient and simple pottery jar, emitting a sense of vicissitudes and swallowing all the essence of heaven and earth around him, like the deepest black hole. I will pass on your unparalleled dharma, immortal heavenly skill. Release your spirit and fully comprehend the supreme path of this world. 1,000 words, just for this moment. Okay. The young man's face was solemn, and the 9 imperial characters that suppressed the Yuan Shengxiantai seemed to have lost their radiance. In the next moment, the pottery jar exploded. It transformed into a fairy light flying, unparalleled and powerful, making all the radiance of the surrounding heaven and earth dim and fade under this rosy light. Light and rain dripped, and large pieces of feathers drifted down, writing a powerful inheritance that penetrated into the young spirit and inherited the wisdom and thoughts of the ancient emperor. If they were still alive, they would live in the hearts of those who came later. However, the only downside is that there are still some flaws in this beautiful jade. It is a malicious prohibition law that attempts to control the inheritors and make them fish that cannot jump out of the fishing net. Great things have been accomplished. The old man was overjoyed. The malice that was originally hidden gradually faded away and began to surface, with a gloomy smile on his face. The young man remained completely unaware, seemingly immersed in the mysteries of the scriptures and unable to extricate himself. Wonderful. That's amazing. The young man sighed and bowed deeply to the old man with a sincere expression. I dare not forget the kindness of preaching. Please come to my Jiang family, senior. Ife is willing to wait wholeheartedly. No way. No way. The old man was stunned as he listened, restrained his blatant malice, hypocritical for a while, and then declined. As an outsider, why should I step into the Jiang family's door? It's okay, it's okay. The young man looked serious. My Jiang family's motto is not to mistreat any good person, nor can we let go of any bad person. The senior has shown me kindness, and I will definitely repay it. Otherwise, how can my conscience be peaceful? Hey! Does the Jiang family have such a family motto? The old man was puzzled. It never happened before, but it has happened recently, the young man said with deep meaning. However, the old man couldn't hear the subtleties behind it. He was overwhelmed by the plan to surpass the joy of perfect success. Perhaps I can get more. His eyes were full of evil intent, his excited heart trembled, and his body trembled. Can the Jiang family become my brand new shell? Following the youth, we set foot on the ancient Holy Land family that has stood on the land of the eastern wilderness for over 100,000 years. The boundless mountains and rivers, built into a pure land of immortality, are so sacred and transcendent. The resting place of young Jiang Yifei in this ancient pure land can be considered as one of the top places, which shows his extraordinary status. I caught a big fish. The joy in the old man's heart increased by 3 points. He followed Jiang Yifei into his palace. The decoration of the hall is very simple, even simple. Apart from the central podium, there is only one fireplace lying horizontally, with a few small birds hovering on it, limp and twitching, occasionally emitting a small spiritual flame, igniting an eternal flame. Apart from this, there is nothing external. Hardship. Simple. This doesn't seem like a naive and noble youth residence at all, lacking a bit of romance and vitality, but more majestic and cold. The old man smelled the uneasy air. He wants to retreat and escape from here. But the next moment. Buzz. The gates of the palace are closed, as if isolating a whole new world. Jiang Yifei had already walked to the side of the stove, looked back leisurely, and looked at the old man with a playful gaze, no longer naive. "Young man, what do you want to do?" The old man turned pale and used language to maneuver, while attempting to launch a ban to control the situation. However useless. In the palm of the boy's hand, a bloodstain appeared, and the crimson blood dripped onto the stove. In the next moment, the waves of life spread through the book garden www.zhaozuiyuan.com. On the stove, the birds transformed into phoenixes and suddenly came alive. The old man's gaze was blurred. The young man's figure is hazy, like a pendant on a stove, with both prosperity and loss. Of course, the ban has also been shared. But something terrible happened. The phoenix danced lightly, spreading its wings and soaring, and any forbidden law became a bubble. Bold demon. The young man scolded, "I can tell at a glance that you are not a good person. Just sugar-coated bullets, you also want to corrode my noble character. Let's see how I eat the sugar coating and shoot the shell back." The young man was in high spirits, and in his laughter and conversation, the strong enemy seemed to be in despair. The old man is horrified, his divine power surges wildly, and his blood is as strong as the sea. However, if he cuts through mountains and rivers, he will be about to kill out of this palace. Why? It's not that he doesn't work hard, but that the enemy is too strong. That furnace hums, shattering the eternal time and space. Even if the instigator doesn't have the strength to revive it and unleash the unparalleled divine power, but the natural vibration makes thousands of paths from ancient to modern times sing together, sweeping through mountains and rivers, interacting with the imperial formation hidden deep underground, crushing all those trying to resist. Ah! The old man roared angrily, but like a fly in amber, he couldn't struggle for a moment. "You're despicable. I curse you." He cursed with anger, filled with countless unwillingness. Although he was still in heaven the previous moment, he ended up in hell the next moment. "Calm down. Calm down." Jiang Yifei smiled and pressed it lightly with one hand, holding it in mid-air. "I've told you before that I've read a lot, so don't lie to me. Immortal skill. Do you think I don't know who I'm referring to?" Chapter 3. Adaptation is not random compilation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The inheritance of the ruthless emperor. Everyone is shouting and fighting. Okay. It's not a big deal for everyone to shout and fight. I have given enough, and tomorrow I will be the leader of the cruel people's sect, firmly supporting all the will of the cruel emperor. But you only have an imperial scripture, and you also want me to be your target and sell your life for you. Sigh. Jiang Yifei sighed, not enough. Anyway. He reached out his hand and resonated with the ancient divine furnace, as if it were a divine will that could not be disobeyed. He patted the old man's head and said, "Let me take a look at the secret of your lineage. Perhaps our Jiang family can still reap a huge profit. After all, although everyone in your family is fighting, how can you still have a history of over 200,000 years? You should have some family background." Jiang Yifei had a slight smile on his lips as he spoke insinuating words. "You can't imagine it." The old man roared angrily. At the next moment, a spark ignited from within him, with a slight wave of extreme energy. He is self-destructive. Buzz. The furnace vibrates, and the laws of the imperial way evolve to suppress it. However, In the end, the success was in vain. In the brilliant glow of the fire, the old man transformed and left nothing behind, burying all clues and traces, making it impossible to trace. He dared not underestimate the power and means of an imperial clan, and when he dared to infiltrate, he was already prepared for extinction. But, very decisive. Jiang Yifei nodded and whispered leisurely, but it's not of much use. I hung it up. I don't know what's going on with you guys, can I? I brushed my sleeves and wiped away a little bit of ashes. Poor person. You think you're here to infiltrate my Jiang family, not to talk about martial arts, to deceive and deceive me, a young man, and cultivate me into the cauldron that your family needs. Little did they know. I'm also fishing. The young man dissipated the blood from his palm, gradually calming the restless furnace. The power of the imperial formation faded away, and with a buzzing sound, the gateway to the palace was opening. The process of confrontation, although brief, is enough to shake this ancient holy family. At the first moment, a homeowner and an elder moved together and arrived at this place. The ancestors' imperial soldiers have revived. The eldest elder of the Jiang family must be angry, and Jiang said, "What happened? Who is invading?" He was extremely angry and was a cold killing opportunity against potential external enemies. But when facing Jiang Yifei, he also showed kindness. After all, this is a child who looks exactly like his ancestors. The bloodline of the ancient emperor is fully revived in the bodies of future generations. If it were an emperor. What kind of dreamy situation is this? The former emperors of the Jiang family died in battle during the dark turmoil of the past. Finally, when it comes to replication. For Jiang Yifei, the Jiang family can be said to be afraid of falling when held in their hands, afraid of melting when held in their mouths, and willing to accept everything they ask for. Whoever dares to touch him is touching the lifeblood of the Jiang family. I have nothing to do. The young Jiang Yifei smiled at the corner of his mouth and comforted the family's elderly. It's already taken care of, he said, it's just some ignorant fools doing some absurd things. In the end, I was unscathed and actually benefited quite a bit. He sealed the coffin and made many tribal elders disperse, leaving only the holy lord of the Jiang family and a few elders who fought with iron and blood. After the idle and miscellaneous people left, a faint and gentle voice rang out. The matter is not that simple, is it? The master of the Jiang family had a cold expression on his face. He looked around, caught the pulse of heaven and earth, and sensed something, not an ordinary intruder. Probably not much worse than me. But in front of the Hengyu furnace, they are just ants, and if they are cut off, they will become dust. The 7 elders of the Jiang family spoke in a deep voice, expressing their trust in the imperial soldiers of the family. Ants return to ants, but we cannot let them go. My Jiang family has been bullied. If there is no response, I'm afraid it won't be forever peaceful. 13 elders snorted coldly. Indeed, that's true. As the source of all the situation, Jiang Yifei delivered an important speech. Although his strength was not high, his status was extraordinary, and he was recognized by the ancestral temple of the Jiang family. He was also a rare figure who made the Jiang family emperor's soldiers feel and touch the Hengyu furnace. Holding the highest strategic weapon and pressing the nuclear strike button anytime and anywhere is unique in this way. However, this matter requires long-term consideration. Jiang Yifei talked for a long time, while the movements in his hands kept moving. He used his divine thoughts as a knife and brush, carving and writing something on a blank book with the Luo Yin Jing as the page. A long time later, he finished the work and handed out the book for the Holy Lord and Elder of the Jiang family to review and carefully study. Is this immortal heavenly skill? The master of the Jiang family's expression changed greatly, which emperor's martial arts inheritance. It has been proven that being able to serve as the Holy Lord of the Jiang family also requires more education. After all, as a facade sign, being a spokesperson for an ancient holy land with poor skills and shallow knowledge is also a very embarrassing thing. Isn't this lineage extinguished by being beaten up by everyone back then? Unexpectedly, it has revived and become active again today. Elder Seven's face changed and he realized something. He looked up at Jiang Yifei at the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com and said, "Your Highness, this is the same group of people who invaded my Jiang family and took action against you." Exactly. The young man straightened his body and began his deception. Anyway, the culprit has already been blasted to pieces by him, hasn't he? Without proper evidence, what he wants to say is what it is. Besides, adaptation is not random. As a traveler, he works as a prophet with the aim of achieving a win-win situation with the Jiang family, only seeking a small profit for himself in this process. Speaking eloquently, Jiang Yifei recounted the events that had happened before, after undergoing artistic processing, in a lively and engaging manner. The general content remains unchanged. The only entry and exit falls on the absolute lack of evidence. The power behind that person is very fierce and terrifying. Jiang Yifei whispered, using the aura of imperial soldiers, wrap them around the primordial spirit and imprint them. Once the situation is not good, take a self-destructive action and erase all information. Be cruel to others, even more so to yourself. Fortunately, he changed his tone. I have the blood of my ancestors reviving in my body, and my connection to the Hengyu furnace is far beyond ordinary people's imagination. Therefore, at the last moment, I was able to intercept some fragmented information from the self-destructive spirit. Don't ask. Asking is the divine effect exerted by the blood of our ancestors. The Holy Lord and the elders were all serious at this moment, listening to the divine son who was destined to restore the glory of the Jiang family in the future. The trace of the Qing emperor's path will be hidden, and the inheritance of the ruthless emperor cannot sit still. They want to rise up waves, annihilate a golden age, and replicate the path of that great emperor. Jiang Yifei's tone was heavy and infected many people. Chapter 4. Winners in Life. Jiang Hengyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How dare they do this? The holy master of the Jiang family's gaze was cold. Let's fight together in this world, eliminate the forbidden zone of life, and there is no inheritance that cannot be destroyed. His Highness mentioned Emperor's soldiers earlier. An elder, however, had a different focus and a worried expression on his face. Which extreme path Holy Land family is merging with it? If there is any disharmony or even a slight mishap, the collision of imperial soldiers will cause great harm to the vast earth. Suspected of shaking the light, Jiang Yifei said with a deep gaze. Although there is insufficient evidence, the information I have obtained is also incomplete. However, from scattered fragments, the Holy Land of Shaking Light is closely related to the lineage of the ruthless person who infiltrated my Jiang family. That would be difficult. Master Jiang sighed lightly. Shake the Holy Land, revered alongside our Jiang family on the land of the eastern wilderness. Without conclusive evidence, it would be difficult for us to lead our people to destroy them. After all, they have an imperial army. A dragon-patterned black golden cauldron. Perhaps I have some understanding. Shaking Light Holy Land, how could it be forged into an imperial weapon in the past? The Holy Lord sighed. If hard work is useful, what else would a genius do? Are there fewer saints from my Jiang family? Let's assume that there is a mastermind behind the scenes. One imperial character, crushing for eternity. Emperor soldiers are the foundation of a holy land that will endure for eternity. The Jiang family is certainly not weak. However, if one wants to destroy a holy land of the same level, the difficulty is even higher than that of heaven. Do we have to swallow this breath? The elder asked back, his face turned pale with iron. That's not enough, said the master of the Jiang family slowly. We can let out some rumors. The revival of the ruthless inheritance is mostly due to not wanting to see this lineage of Holy Land aristocratic families rise. The inheritance of ruthless people and the shouting and beating of everyone are not empty words. After all, this is the real deal. Eating and abortion. Other people become successful, and the contemporaries of Jinjiao still have some way to survive. As long as they are willing to let go of their victories and defeats. The ruthless emperor. All the outstanding figures who fought alongside this supreme ruler in the same era have been killed. It's better to see no beginning than to see ruthless people. In addition, the shaking light Holy Land did some small movements in the first year of junior high school, and my Jiang family is not just affected. You can do one for 15. The Holy Lord of the Jiang family is also decisive in his campaign at this moment. Jiang Yi. Is he still his 9th bandit? Said the Holy Lord with a sneer. Arrange for him to clean up the mining area in the northern region, causing them some heartache. In the northern region of the eastern wilderness, there is a famous specialty called yuan, which has also developed and cultivated a unique industrial chain. The coexistence of Holy Land agents and large pirates is a characteristic of this place. The Jiang family, as the ancestral home of the Jidao Holy Land, has too much involvement in subtlety. In his early years, there was a skilled figure who, due to disagreements with the family's main lineage, rebelled against the Jiang family, wandered in the northern region, occupied land as a king, transformed into a powerful bandit, and dominated a black industrial chain. His name was Jiang Yi. But nevertheless, there is ultimately a causal relationship that is constantly cutting and confusing. Contrary opinions lead to disagreements, but the overall family interests cannot be reversed. Otherwise, perhaps it wasn't the holy master of the Jiang family who had already taken action, wielding imperial weapons, and annihilated them. Even the alliance of major bandits in the northern regions contains half of the imperial soldiers. After all, the Jiang family is not an ordinary holy land of extreme Tao. That is far away in Zhongzhou, but there is an ancient Chinese divine dynasty that has countless connections with it. If one is not good, it won't be one imperial weapon, but 2. This matter is a long story and cannot be separated from the romantic past of the ancestor of the Jiang family, Emperor Hengyu. Emperor Hengyu was also a wonderful person when he was young. He had a friend who established an indescribable tradition on the purple micro-ancient star, known as human desire education. The official propaganda was about the 7 emotions and 6 desires, refining the heart in the mortal world, and realizing the supreme way. Isn't it serious? Then I switched to yin-yang double cultivation, which can be said to be everyone shouting and beating. Emperor Hengyu, having such fox friends and dog friends, is also considered strange. Not only did he make good friends, but he even sacrificed and refined a quasi-emperor's weapon for him. And, let's refine our weapons. They are still hidden and can only be revealed in the form of weapons within weapons in times of crisis. It's hard not to doubt whether this friend of Emperor Evergrande is a real friend or the legendary, I have a friend. Who knows? Jiang Yifei didn't dare to ask anything, nor did he dare to say anything, just a little envy in his heart. Call the Emperor Emperor, learn from Hengyu. If we say, the life of the Void Emperor was a portrayal of the heroic tragedy. So, the life of Emperor Evergrande is undoubtedly a winner in life. Having a friend who drives, he has also proven the achievements of the Emperor and created 2 immortal aristocratic families and dynasties. Faced with the dark turmoil, it was better to start first and break into the Taichu ancient mine. Sheng Sheng killed a supreme ultimate Tao, but later retreated with full strength. That's all, he's still fishing. Fishing for big fish like the immortal Emperor. Although I didn't catch it. Fortunately, I didn't. Like the Emperor next door, who had an anal battle with the immortal Emperor and died tragically. He had no choice but to collapse in front of Qingxian Road, unable to complete the battle. Emperor Hengyu is special among emperors in ancient times. In his later years, the Emperor Taihuang died horizontally, and his life in the void was tragic. The chaotic ancient emperor's heart became insane, and the Western emperor was left alone for half of his life. He went to the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com, where the ruthless emperor was deeply engrossed in his thoughts. The unscrupulous emperor turned his back to all sentient beings. The Qing emperor transformed himself into an immortal realm, but later generations fell into despair and withered. People envy emperors from ancient and modern times, but who knows that emperors also have their own sorrow. Among the strongest group of people in this universe, Emperor Hengyu appears somewhat out of place. Everyone is not doing well, why are you so nourishing? As a bloodline returning to his ancestors, Jiang Yifei, who himself is a guest from a different world, admires the ruthless emperor's persistence and immortality, admires the boundless combat power of the Wuxia emperor, and respects the noble character of the Void Emperor. But what kind of person does he most like and want to become? Without a doubt, it must be Emperor Evergrande. Teenagers have small dreams. Longevity, then enclosure as king, carefree and joyful. He is very honest and conscious of being worthy of praise. Unfortunately, this world is called covering the sky. And more importantly, it may also be linked to holy market. Suddenly, dreams become difficult. The holy market. Jiang Yifei listened to the plan of the master of the Jiang family and several elders on how to give some color to the shaking light holy land, while absent-mindedly pondering his own affairs. He has traveled to this world for several years. Seize and give up. Or is it reincarnation, and then deciphering the mysteries within the fetus, awakening the past life? At his current level, it is difficult to distinguish. However, no matter what, there are always difficulties ahead. The dark turmoil of over 200 years later. To the distant future, a great sacrifice to the heavens. These are all cruel tribulations and also stages for heroes to gallop on. But is it really like this? Chapter 5. The future is uncertain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Over the years, Jiang Yifei has grown up cautiously, carefully collecting information and smelling the uneasy air. Originally, as a time traveler who knows the script, in a universe that promotes the theme of justice will overcome evil, it should be open and relaxed. Darkness will eventually fall, and light will surely come. But gradually, he became uncertain again. Is the future really clear now? And it determines the past. For example, if he steals Yi Fengchu's belongings, will he be slapped to death from the future? If possible so. What do you say about the chaos of darkness, the supreme blood-eating sentient beings in the Forbidden Zone? The dark turmoil, this is a great tragedy of the world that covers the sky, has always existed and has not disappeared to this day. Under the difficulty of blood, 90% of the creatures in the world will be harvested, but they have never been pacified. Without a bell, it trembled in time and space, like the supreme immortal emperor slapping and killing the supreme in the forbidden area. There is no cauldron that suppresses the era, destroys the evil troublemakers. Or, it is a fairy sword, a great way treasure bottle that cuts down thousands of paths, cuts through an era, and buries all darkness. Jiang Yifei has confirmed repeatedly. In turmoil, there is no savior. The tomb of Emperor Jiang of the Jiang family, where he worships every year, is filled with broken clothes, blood-stained soldiers, and endless desolation. Those who want to save the world are all dead. Dead to the bone. No miracle is born. Look. Even this cruel and bloody turmoil has not been dealt with. So, is it a big problem to cut off some divine medicines, immortals, and gold? It shouldn't be. Of course. If Mr. Yi candidly stated in the downstream of the river of time that the dark turmoil was only about 90% of the dead creatures in the world, but what he lost was the divine medicine and immortal gold. Then Jiang Yifei had nothing to say and was willing to accept it. Yi Fengchu has said so, what else can he do? Just like the shocking comments in the love world. What you lose is only one leg, what she loses is love. Jiang Yifei sighed in his heart. The dark turmoil is just evidence, in addition to the existence of the underworld. The late years of Yuan Tianshi are still unknown, which indirectly proves the hidden activity of the underworld. This information is very important. If only I could go and take a look at the old land of Yaoqi. If everything remains the same, and there is still the father of the great Emperor Wu Shi, the body of the great Qing holy body has changed and crawled out of the coffin. Then the conclusion will be clear. Opening the coffin and whipping the corpse, who can accept that their father's body has been harmed? If it were me, I would have no beginning. Even if I traveled through time and space, I would have destroyed the underworld to pieces. Wu Shi, your father faked the corpse. This anger bar exploded instantly. Wu Shi Emperor, but he wants to live with his parents. Full of filial piety, can you accept being disturbed by the body of your old father? A series of information seems to confirm something. Either time has not yet formed a circle, the future has not been determined, and time flows downstream, unable to interfere with the past. Alternatively, it could be another terrifying situation. This sky-covered world is all reflected out. The whole universe, all NPC, all dungeons, it's a cutscenes animation. Because it is an NPC in a cutscenes animation, there is no sacrifice, no turmoil, and even death is resurrected. However, since it's a replica, I'm sure even the strongest players who overlook this game wouldn't care about a bunch of data, like divine medicines and immortal gold, would they? It's just a game. Will players care about the economy being exploited by their teammates? Not necessarily. Playing in the wilderness often stays in the middle, and people in the middle will go crazy. Offline PK is very likely. The above is significant positive news. Jiang Yifei can let go of his hands and feet. As long as it's not too excessive. However, it is also bad news. Because the future is uncertain, there is no guaranteed outcome. Will die. Tisk. Young Jiang Yifei's self mocked in his heart, I'm taking my life to prove the future. If I were to be photographed to death, it would prove that in the distant future, the just side will ultimately achieve victory, defeat evil, and quell the greatest turmoil in history. I died in the right place. Although it is regrettable that the old dragons have fallen and new dragons have risen, they do not care about the creatures that died in the past turmoil, they are like fleeting clouds. If I hadn't been beaten to death, then I would have had to risk my life. The debts of our predecessors will be borne by future generations. Enjoying the benefits of the Jiang family, I must also acknowledge the enmity that Emperor Hengyu has formed between him and the life-forbidden zone of Taichu ancient mine. For my own consideration, as well as for the consideration of all living beings in the universe, fight against the penalty area, who will give up on me. The young man has a lofty heart. Even if it is forced. So, in the past 6 months, he has taken the initiative to attack and acted aggressively, imitating the fishing behavior of Emperor Hengyu. Isn't that right? Some fish have really taken the bait. Starting from the holy land of shaking light, this is the imperial journey of Jiang Yifei. He aims to achieve the greatest success in the shortest possible time. But this is too difficult. After all, time waits for no one. It's just 200 years. There are only over 200 years left until the start of Beidou Qingxian Road. Time is too short. Even if Jiang Yifei is a reincarnation of his bloodline, like the son of Emperor Evergrande. But in just 200 years of practice, becoming a great saint is already the limit, let alone the level of quasi-emperor and great emperor. Zhaozuiyuan.com, not to mention suppressing the dark turmoil. Even if it's just a confrontation with the supreme opponent in the penalty area, at least it's at the level of the Holy Communion of Deshang. The combat power of alternative paths is fundamental. This is just facing the Dark One in the penalty area. However, when the Qingxian Road of Beidou opens, is it a forbidden zone supreme that comes out? That's such a nest. Thinking of this, no matter how rough Jiang Yifei's nerves are, he is about to burst into foul language. In such a situation, no one has the ability to turn the tide, and everyone has to struggle. Escape. It's also difficult to solve the problem. After all, Emperor Hengyu has formed an enmity with the Taichu ancient mine, and the supreme in this restricted area does not mind taking the Jiang family for an attack. And with the strength of the emperor's strength, he traversed the 3 realms and 6 paths, and walked to the end of the universe in one step. Escape. What are you using to escape? Moreover, the Jiang family has certainly been decaying over the years, experiencing over 100,000 years of wind and rain, and gradually growing crooked. There have been many unworthy descendants in the family, and there have been many bad things to do. However, there are still people who hold deep character and want to step forward and contribute their meager efforts in the face of turmoil. Awakening the fragments of the imperial law in their bloodline, allowing the ancestors living in the body of future generations to return. In the end, they also truly achieved their wish. The body of the Evergrande Emperor was spiritually connected, and they obtained this extreme law to compete with the Supreme One. In the end, they sought benevolence and benevolence. An indescribable tragedy. Jiang Yifei, who returned to his ancestral lineage, was the first to bear the brunt. In the timeline of the original work, it was the divine King Jiang Taishu who kicked him out, allowing Jiang Yifei to survive. How can a living person not feel sad and lost in such an ending? Not to mention, Jiang Yifei is different today. Chapter 6. People are different. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I am a noble time and space traveler, a time-traveling player driving cheats. How can I be so cowardly? I want to do something big. The young man's spiritual consciousness was introverted, condensed into the sea of consciousness, and he saw a scripture, a golden book and jade book, fixed in the center of the sea of consciousness, eternal and motionless, as if the highest and oldest path. On the cover of the scripture, there were 3 large characters he didn't recognize, which made Jiang Yifei feel sad and angry about the pain of illiteracy. And exhausted his divine sense, barely flipping through the pages of the book. There were more unfamiliar words. He had tried to copy, but there was no magical effect. It wasn't until he was focused for a long time that he realized some kind of truth. Those words have been constantly changing, as if reflecting on what kind of wisdom, constantly presenting in different forms. Unless one can grasp the root and trace the source, what can be seen at any time is only one side of the road. In short, nowadays, Jiang Yifei lacks even the qualification to interpret this scripture. Its origin is a mystery, invisible to outsiders. Only when Jiang Yifei awakened in his past life did he truly see it. Perhaps it is a timeless blessing that transcends time and space, or a miracle intertwined with the infinite universe, that makes him meet and accompany it. This fate has opened a small gap for Jiang Yifei. The entire scripture, although mysterious and unpredictable, has 2 sentences that he knows. Even if he knows them but doesn't know why. At the moment he knew it, he also mastered 2 extraordinary supernatural powers. Knowledge and ability overlap in this moment. The way of heaven is to make up for the shortcomings while losing the surplus. The way of human beings, the loss is not enough to offer more than enough. Simple yet profound. With Jiang Yifei's superficial mastery, he comprehended some of the mysteries and was able to understand their power. Like the way of heaven. Losing more, filling in less. This is a word, balance. Creatures are very wonderful. I am born with a talent that is always useful. This indicates that everyone has their own strengths. Similarly, everyone has their own shortcomings. A person may have good eyesight but poor hearing. Some people are good at memorizing, but their comprehension ability is worrying. Some people have a strong innate physique, but their intelligence and talent are mediocre. Some people, who are naturally talented, have no choice but to become useless and achieve twice the result in their path of cultivation. The creation of heaven and earth is so subtle. Reflected in practice, it fully embodies the various states of the world. Of course, there is no absolute in the world. Like a ruthless emperor with unparalleled talent, he made up for his physical shortcomings and killed all the arrogant beings of a golden age. In the end, he developed an unparalleled physique. The chaos body. Even in the end, the mortal world became immortal. And correspondingly, there is an innate chaotic body. Wang Bo, the source of the ancient star Beidou, born extraordinary, with an unparalleled physique. What about the outcome? The achievements have been mediocre. At least not comparable to other chaotic entities. Shi. Destiny. However, here with Jiang Yifei, these things are a bit subtle. He can sacrifice his surplus to make up for his deficiency. Surplus and deficiency are both relative. As a heavenly pride, Jiang Yifei's natural talent and understanding in cultivation are not inferior. But it also depends on what it is compared to. His current level of realm is completely different from the physical origin of his bloodline returning to his ancestors, with a difference of heaven and earth. The potential of the body is enormous, and what Jiang Yifei is currently developing is only the tip of the iceberg. This is surplus. Losing this surplus to make up for the lack of talent. This is enough to support the rapid progress of young people in their early cultivation and enlightenment. How joyful is the feeling of truly stunning talent. Jiang Yifei now understands it clearly. He also truly understood the state of the ruthless emperor when he was young. Perhaps he had a weak physique, but he was constantly inspired, with various imaginative ideas emerging, and had extraordinary touches and insights on cultivation and the Tao. People are different from each other. When Jiang Yifei opened the door to the new world, he deeply understood this truth. The way of heaven is to make up for the shortcomings with surplus losses. This divine power does not advocate killing, but it has already surpassed countless spells. During its operation, Jiang Yifei was able to adjust his various attributes, use different perspectives to understand the fundamental principles of the Tao, correct his own cognition, and indirectly realize his potential ahead of time. Besides, there is also the way of people. If we say, the way of heaven, it is the main balance. So the way of being human is to advocate for extremes. Insufficient losses, more offerings. Strengthen the inherent advantages and make them even stronger. Under the operation of this divine skill, all attributes and abilities of a living creature are digitized, and then their weaker attributes are compromised. While maintaining the most basic needs, they continue to stack on top of their already outstanding strengths. This method is very terrifying. It is enough to make a person constantly break their limits. And when it is combined with the balanced way of heaven, the Star Avenue has already appeared in front of Jiang Yifei, opening up for him. Therefore, he voluntarily chose to embark on a terrifying imperial path. I need an invincible physique. Jiang Yifei once pondered, because of that, I would be equivalent to having amazing insight and talent. And what else is more suitable for me than the inheritance of the ruthless emperor who shaped the chaotic body? That's the only way. I have been able to achieve the most incredible breakthrough in over 200 years, competing with the supreme through the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. As for fully practicing the method of others, will it create any obstacles to one's own path? Jiang Yifei doesn't care. What he needs first is to live well. Which year and month will he enter the immortal realm, with endless time to explore and open up? What kind of shackles of predecessors cannot be broken? If we really want to argue, the cultivation system is also a shackle. Today's cultivators are all walking through the secret realm system of the wilderness emperor. But does this hinder everyone from advancing and breaking through? It doesn't hinder at all. The characteristic of practice in the world of covering the sky is nirvana and transformation. All kinds of unbreakable, and then stand, cut off decay and start a new life. It's not like there's no other way without regrets. Once you get on the thief's boat, you can't get off and can only grit your teeth and walk all the way to the dark fantasy world. It has room for trial and error. As long as you have sufficient resources and time. That's it. Jiang Yifei's eyes lit up as he said, after obtaining the swallowing demon technique and immortal heavenly skill, he became an archaeologist and turned a black hand for a lifetime. Afterwards, go and explore the channels of Yuan Tianshi to see if you can infiltrate the underworld. If I could swallow the chaotic blood monster forged with all my heart and effort from the underworld for a living. At that time, how many supreme beings could I fight? Dreams are beautiful. But reality is cold. When the discussion between the Holy Lord of the Jiang family and the elders became louder, he planned 7 or 80 plans to retaliate against the Shaking Light Holy Land, each with their own opinions, arguing over which plan to execute first. When it was presented to Jiang Yifei, he also had to come to his senses. Chapter 7. Tomb Science, Archaeological Nova. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Expose the relationship between the inheritance of ruthless people and the Shaking Light Holy Land. Create a public opinion offensive and let the Jidao Holy Land join forces to suppress it. No, 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 no. Jiang Yifei shook his head repeatedly and rejected the plan. If they are scared and move from light to dark, where will I go to harvest in the future? As soon as these words were spoken, the whole room fell silent. I think the martial arts of the ruthless emperor are actually very good. Jiang Yifei said, I also want to take a walk. And when I go alone, how can I compare to a few people walking together? He smiled faintly and said, I'll just do the final harvest. They are all my demons. The ultimate achievement lies in me. At this moment, Jiang Yifei had an indescribable demonic charm on his body. Yifei, you need to think twice. The elder looked serious. Do you have the inheritance of the Eternal Universe Sutra, that teaches you not to practice, but to practice the ruthless emperor? Is this decent? It's a bit off topic, Jiang Yifei chuckled lightly. But time waits for no one. The road to immortality is about to open, and there are only over 200 years left until our ancestors deduce it. He looked around at the saints and elders present. How far can I go in such a short time, following the steps? We can only do extraordinary things. Moreover, the inheritance of the ruthless emperor is also groundbreaking. After all, in terms of military achievements alone, this great emperor has conquered a life penalty zone. Something that our ancestors never did. The Tianduan Mountains still bear her traces to this day. The ruthless emperor, this is a world-shaking emperor. It's her who killed the Emperor Dao Fire Spirit. It was her who cut off the Tianduan Mountains with one sword, turning the ancestral land of the Holy Spirit royal family into ruins, and swept away a forbidden zone of life with one sword. She was the one who fought against the 9 heavenly sovereigns alone, even confronting those who were still alive. She conquered the 9 heavens and 10 earths alone, and created the 9 ultimate mysteries comparable to the 9 secrets. It was also her who entered the immortal mountain and sat under the tea of Wudao. The ancient emperor dared not speak and remained silent. It was also she who stepped into the Kunlun immortal land, smashed it into a tripod with one hand, and killed 10,000 ancestral dragon heads. She was detached from the world, ignoring the desire of ginseng fruit trees to follow. She has lived one life after another, creating miracles of immortality, but not for the sake of becoming an immortal, only for the return of one person in this mortal world. And these are just small moments in the life of this great emperor, and too many have dissipated in the river of time, which outsiders cannot know. The truth is buried in the past. Even these small details are enough to amaze people. The life of the ruthless emperor was accompanied by controversy, but it was also full of legends, with countless experiences of approaching immortality and rebellious actions. There is nothing wrong with the scriptures created by such emperors, except for their demonic nature. After all, how many emperors and emperors have been driven crazy by one immortal character and one eternal life? Most of the supreme beings who hibernate in the forbidden zone of life are insane. In pursuit of the immortal realm, many of them have cold hearts and even lost their humanity. They brutally kill all beings, only to repair the cracks in Sendai that have appeared due to aging. This is a crazy world. Jiang Yifei deeply believed that in order to defeat these supreme beings who had actually fallen into the demon realm, he could only grow in a more insane way than them. And precisely. The inheritance of the ruthless emperor perfectly meets the requirements. Jiang Yifei spoke in a calm tone and shared his thoughts with the present Saint Elder, causing several elderly people to sigh with melancholy. The hope of the family is forced by the threat of darkness and turmoil, embarking on a crazy and bloody path, yet they are powerless to help anything. This scene is indescribable sadness and sadness. What can they do if they are not even saints? Moreover, the sage is nothing but an ant in front of the Supreme Being. Your Highness wants to take this path, all we can offer is support. After a long time, Elder 7 sighed and then put on a cold expression, since that's the case. Mobilize the family to investigate the intelligence of various Holy Land aristocratic families and sects, and see which talented individuals have outstanding physical fitness. Kill them all and pave the way for His Highness. Jiang Yifei was momentarily stunned upon hearing this, and then waved his hand repeatedly. It's not like this. With the Holy Land of Shaking Light at the forefront, they will be more proactive than us. When they do all the bad things that offend people, we will reap the harvest. As for before. Could you please search for the grand screen of the profound cultivators from all generations on the ancient star of the Big Dipper? Jiang Yifei tilted his head. I think with our family's heritage, it shouldn't be difficult to achieve this after sitting and observing the changes of mountains and rivers for more than 100,000 years. It's easy. Master Jiang of the Jiang family rubbed his brows. Tombs are a way of learning and living from corpses. Since ancient times, no one in our Jiang family has thought of taking a walk, and even fragments of descriptions have been left in our ancestors' letters. Although no one has succeeded. No, someone succeeded. Jiang Yifei's eyes were subtle. This road is not easy to follow, but some people have achieved phased results. Just like the ancestors of the Jiang family, they successfully pretended to be corpses and ran to earth, becoming divine farmers. Even if their bodies were divine. Even if he could succeed 9 times in a row and prove himself immortal in the mortal world. Perhaps the true Emperor Evergrande would return. Not to mention anything else, this road is actually quite good. No need to fight or kill. When it's time, just lie down in the grave and find the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com for 9 times to become an immortal. How good is it? Unfortunately, it's too much luck. If someone interrupts you midway, it's all in vain. Although the road may be a bit difficult, it is indeed a bright and smooth one. Chao Yusheng. Crossing the tribulation of the Heavenly Sovereign. Emperor Ming. Duanda. Someone has really taken this path. Wandering between life and death, 9 times in a row, stealing the mysteries of the universe, and finally becoming immortal in the mortal world. Jiang Yifei didn't want to go down this path, but it didn't prevent him from doing some articles based on it. After all, this path is highly praised by many elderly cultivators. Perhaps they are in a hurry to seek medical treatment, and they like to choose a feng shui treasure to bury themselves and wait for the corpse to be faked. At that time, Jiang Yifei plans to visit at his doorstep. Although it may be a bit unethical. But in terms of cultivation, it's not shabby. A rising star in the field of archaeology. And this is just one aspect of his preparation. Besides visiting ancient tombs, we also need to take multiple measures. The lineage of ruthless people in the Shaking Light Holy Land has been passed down. If I can play with farming, I can't play with it. They can harvest, but I cannot harvest. This can have it. Besides. Jiang Yifei pondered, his killing intent gradually rising, and his killing intent suddenly arose. There are countless ancient tribes. With so many varieties and extraordinary origins, this should also be the best food, right? And now? Are they still sleeping? If I could find a saint to fight against, sneak around and use the Hengyu stove to deal with a few ordinary ancient tribes, and do things without realizing it. I would still be short of food. Chapter 8. Sword Finger Shakes Light, and the Stone Archway is in Calamity. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Jiang Yifei vaguely had the prototype of a mastermind behind the scenes. He has no intention of working in personnel at all. I can't do much serious things, but the bad water in my stomach is endless. This unused talent, combined with the resources possessed by the Jiang family, can be described as a qualitative change. The Jiang family has imperial soldiers. This strategic destructive weapon, as long as it can be used, kills saints like slaughtering dogs. There are countless tribes in ancient times, which may sound arrogant and coaxing, but in reality, most of them are just having an ancestor king sitting down. It's not difficult for a sage to carry the imperial army and kill a group of 20 or 30. And the Jiang family also has such conditions. Not to mention the family background, there is such an unparalleled divine king in the Purple Mountain. Perhaps the only thing that bothers people is that those ancient tribes kept it very well. There are ancestors, kings, and saints within the clan who have carved patterns, which are difficult to find. This requires active technique masters, searching for dragon veins, exploring nature, in order to discover them. But Purple Mountain, it's enough to solve this problem. The inner source of the heavenly book can help locate the source and determine the dragon's lineage. As for learning the source heavenly book, it will lead to unknown later years. Jokes. If the underworld doesn't come to find me, I will go there. On the road to casting chaotic bodies, there is a lack of contributions from the underworld's heritage. I don't know how much has been done in digging graves in this ancient forbidden zone of life. If you want to find a place that gathers the most top-notch constitutions in the entire universe, it must be the underworld. Even if they are all dead. Eating a buffet in the underworld can make you feel full. In some cases, the inheritance of the underworld and the ruthless emperor is the true match. By contrast, the salvage excavation of ancient monk tombs proposed by the saints and elders of the Jiang family is only a small fraction. But Jiang Yifei didn't pick either. Yes, that's good. With your words and mine, Jiang Yifei's underground archaeological work gradually developed detailed arrangements under the planning of a group of 800-year-old people. As witnesses of history, the Jiang family has watched the entire eastern wilderness for over 100,000 years. If we continue to maintain relationships with relatives and collude with the ancient Chinese imperial dynasty, it would be even more clear about Zhongzhou. 2 domains can meet Jiang Yifei's early cultivation needs. However, the young man also had some hidden worries. Will anything bad happen to the origin of the corpse if it is devoured too much? This may be the annoyance of happiness in the bright future. Perhaps I need to find an immortal elixir to neutralize it. Suddenly, Jiang Yifei felt lost in thought. Cough. He coughed lightly and caught the attention of the saints and elders. I want to practice immortal heavenly skill, which should be a secret. Since that's the case, we should retaliate against the actions of Shaking Light harbors evil intentions, otherwise the holy land of Shaking Light will inevitably have strange ideas. However, there is no need to arrange for major bandits, as it is too provocative and can easily cause criticism. We are not convenient to stir up disputes and uncover the truth by using the excuse of ruthless people inheriting and living in isolation and shaking the light. However, there are also algorithms for confused accounts. Just shake it up and get a little revenge. Don't make them feel too heartbroken, nor should they be too insignificant and looked down upon. But there is such a good place to start. Jiang Yifei paused and said, Holy City. Give me the stone workshop of the Shaking Light Holy Land. Lift it up and loot it clean. As soon as he spoke, it was a rock-shattering shock. This may not be easy, shook the master of the Jiang family. The Holy City is the center of the northern regions. The great powers of various places, the royal family among the cultivators of Zhongzhou, and the giants of the northern regions gather in the Holy City year-round. Isn't it not good to use force in such a place? Moreover, there are also complex prohibitions and protections there, which are not easy to overturn. He gave a very gentle persuasion. I don't think so, Jiang Yifei shook his head. All the problems are just due to insufficient firepower. At that time, please activate the Hengyu stove and unleash the ultimate power. This statement has made many elders feel scalp tingling. Too much iron-blooded killing and daring to act recklessly. Isn't that good? An elder who was originally from the iron-blooded sect hesitated for a moment. This is a great violation of the world. So what? Jiang Yifei asked back, we control the imperial army and are the ones who make rules. Why are we bound by rules? If we don't polish our imperial soldiers and awaken the fear in the hearts of those ambitious families, they may think that the reason why our Jiang family has been able to stand proudly on the land of the eastern wilderness for more than 100,000 years is through doing charity. He spoke with a strong and powerful tone. However, looking at many elders with hesitant faces, he also understood that this step was taken too far at once, making it difficult for people to accept. So he took a step back. Don't lift the roof, just open a window, okay? If you all have concerns. Why not hide the true scent and whereabouts of the Hengyu furnace then? I think it shouldn't be difficult to achieve this, right? Jiang Yifei asked again. This is not unfounded. In the original work, as the first generation of the Jiang family's divine king revived, there were unknown figures who incited the mysterious imperial soldiers to boldly attack and kill the divine king on the spot in the holy city. This actually proves that the so-called rules are nothing more than a paper cage in front of the power that controls the imperial army. Such a thing can be done in the Shaguang Holy Land, but can't the Jiang family do it? We have lifted up the stone archway of the Shaking Light Holy Land, and even those who are unaware will be fine. Even those who are aware can guess our will and determination. Jiang Yifei smiled and said, we have imperial soldiers and are not afraid to use them. If they dare to reach out to my Jiang family and make any small moves, then we can go to war if it's a big deal. Let them understand that we are crazy and don't provoke us if you have nothing to do. His will is cold, while transforming his body's potential, causing the already rich ancestral bloodline to stir and resonate with the nearby divine furnace. Buzz. The divine furnace trembled lightly, as if the soldier had returned, causing it to make a sound. Suddenly, the elders of the Lord changed their stance. What can they do? They can't do anything either. Hengyu furnace has already been put on the platform, can they still oppose it with their small arms and legs? That's right. Our Jiang family cannot be deceived. The Holy Lord agreed, however, smashing the Shaking Light stone workshop. Is it a bit radical? What about changing the target? If you don't exchange, it's Shifang. Jiang Yifei has his persistence. What to exchange for? The seed of an immortal elixir is displayed, it is priceless treasure. The key is not to smash the Shaking Light stone archway, but to keep this precious treasure in your arms. If it were another informant, they might have thought of doing a half-day drama, becoming a master of source magic, attracting countless viewers, and then gambling in front of everyone, cutting out the seeds of the Kirin elixir, causing countless disputes. But Jiang Yifei is different. Showdown. I'll grab it directly. Chapter 9. My Empress Sister/Unfair Old Table. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The goal is the elixir of immortality, and the process remains to be discussed. As long as the seeds of the Qilin divine medicine can be obtained, there is no matter how good or evil the means are. Moreover, the fewer informed individuals, the better. After all, there was a branch of the ancient royal family called Hulin Cave. It's hard to say that the Kirin divine medicine has no connection with this tribe. Even if others think it doesn't, this tribe is likely to force connections and bring ancient imperial soldiers to visit. Although the Hulin Cave in the original work follows the rules and is determined to win the Qilin seed, there is no hard work. But this cannot be gambled on. Because perhaps due to Yi Fan's background, the ancient royal family also found it difficult. After all, Yi Fan emerged from the ancient forbidden areas of the 7 major life zones. And he also took the holy potion and entered several times without dying. This can no longer be explained by luck. The stronger the ethnic group, the more they will feel awe towards the forbidden zone of life, because they know how terrifying darkness lies behind it. The mountains of corpses and the sea of blood, all spirits die, and all living beings are like food, being eaten by the cruelest and most ruthless. In ancient times, there were also dark turmoil. Ordinary ancient tribes are just that, harvesting one crop after another. Civilization has been cut off countless times, and I don't have a deep understanding of the hidden behind it. But the royal family. They record history, they witness history. Their ancient imperial ancestors lay dormant in the forbidden zone, both waiting for the path to immortality and serving as a form of deterrence. This ensures that when other supreme beings launch a dark rebellion, they will turn a blind eye and let go of these groups with backers behind them. However, the ancient imperial family is most aware of the cruelty and bloodshed of the forbidden zone, such as the harm caused by animals, the death of rabbits and foxes, and the cruelty and brutality of the supreme beings. They are deeply aware that those terrifying beings lurking in the penalty area have never been easy to talk about. The long years waiting for the road to immortality have already chilled their hearts. An ant, bouncing inside and surviving by chance, this may still be possible. But when he touched someone else's elixir of immortality and walked out lively, if he had no background, who would believe it? Only ignorant people can be fearless. Those who have never been to an emperor or an imperial tribe cannot understand how deep the water is inside. Even a great imperial family cannot become a saint, and even a great saint has no right to know the inside story. So, that's why a group of great minds have gone crazy about extending their lifespan and dare to go to the forbidden zone of life to try their luck. It was ignorance that gave them enough courage. I really understand. Even if your knees are not weak, they are all outstanding people. The ancient royal family was fundamentally unwilling to easily provoke exceptions like Yi Fan. They dare not gamble. Of course, in fact, they didn't do anything wrong either. Mr. Yi, there is really a background. Covering the sky. Can actually be renamed, I have a Empress sister. As a similar flower, Yi Fan was chosen by the ruthless emperor at this time. This is my brother. Don't guess the thoughts of Brother Kong. Yi Fan can be disabled, but definitely not killed. The Empress is still waiting for Emperor Yi Fanqing to see if he can awaken the so-called past life. For this, Lianhadao flowers are ready. However, as an informant, Jiang Yifei knew that Yi Fan was really just a similar flower and not the elder brother of the ruthless emperor. Even if one's appearance is consistent, one's physique is also consistent. This is revealed in the holy market. Because Yi Fan's appearance has undergone changes before. He was influenced by the bronze coffin of the Third Age, and his appearance was adjusted to approach the Creator and the mysterious source of the plateau. Not only him, but also the Huangtian Emperor and the Guantian Emperor. 3 heavenly emperors, with similar appearances. This is a very delicate matter. Therefore, the ruthless emperor at this point in time will be misled seriously and make incorrect judgments. Her strength at this moment is not enough to see through the eternal mystery, which is the ultimate secret of the entire world. In this world, there is no reincarnation, only reflection. The power of the immortal emperor can reflect the heavens, eternity, and the mortal world. But to put it another way, the elder brother of the Empress, the deceased Holy Communion, was born with such a graceful appearance. It's hard not to make insiders tremble with fear. Without the influence of the Third Age copper coffin or the urn, it naturally grew like that, combined with the ultimate achievement of the Empress, making Jiang Yifei suspicious. He once guessed that it might be a bit of a thought from the ultimate boss echoing, transforming into such a person. After all, on the plateau, those strange ethnic groups, those ancestors who have lost their way, offer great sacrifices to the heavens, and the heavens point to that person, trying to revive him and find a further path from him. Although it failed. It's hard to say that there hasn't been any eerie change. A vague residual has truly come back to life, and then it flickers like a shooting star, quietly passing away. However, despite passing away, her influence remained. A little obsession with her sister, which she couldn't let go of, turned into blessings and bestowed upon the Empress, allowing her to soar and eventually even have the grace to step on the sacrificial path. This is not impossible. You should know that under the thought of such characters, even an ordinary lotus plant has been transformed into a 10,000 cycles of reincarnation lotus. Is the intelligence and talent of the ruthless emperor truly something that ordinary people can achieve? She wouldn't be so human if she had a slight resemblance. There are many mortal beings who suffer greatly and hold deep grudges, and how many of them can prove immortality in the mortal world due to a little bit of attachment at zhaozhuiyuan.com. Even at the most brilliant moment of her life, she fought alone against the 5 great ancestors, and even managed to forcibly take one away. Even the plateau could not be resurrected. Throughout history, this is the only example. The past is gone, and the future will never be again. It's the only one, it's a myth. Jiang Yifei felt more and more subtle as he thought about it. The Holy Ruins, also known as My Grudged Old Table or The Battle for Heritage. Believe it or not, how many sacrificial rituals have appeared from beginning to end, and how many have nothing to do with the source of the plateau. 10 great ancestors, formed from ashes. The 3 heavenly emperors have also been influenced. Whether it's the righteous or the antagonist, they can't be separated from each other. It's okay. Like Emperor Wuxia, who was such a powerful figure back then and turned his back to sentient beings, what happened? I also have to face people head-on. There's nothing I can do. Who wants him to be the last one in the 3-person group of Zhitian? No beginning. I haven't seen you in a few years, have you been pulling like this? If this continues, even the Black Emperor will catch up with you. Bold assumptions and careful verification. The road is long and winding, and I will search up and down. Jiang Yifei sighed at the secrecy of the world and tightened his tight-fitting robe. On a scorching hot day, he was shivering all over. Opening the history of time, there was no era in this book, and every page was crooked with the words, passionate struggle, written on it. On the night when I first woke up, I couldn't sleep. I recalled the plot of most of the night and only then could I see 2 words in the gaps between the words. Background. Chapter 10. Young people can't stand such a test. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Anyway. It's revenge anyway, there should be a disaster in the shaken stone workshop. The saint of the Jiang family sighed faintly and confirmed the result. Even if Sheikh Light is angry, it won't go completely crazy. After all, the stones placed in the holy stone archway are all extraordinary in appearance, but judged by internal professionals to be gimmicks, used to deceive fools. The target price is very high, but often it is inflated. The Lord comforted himself and found himself a step down. Of course, the fact is mostly the same. Who would sell good things at a low price outside? In most cases, buyers are not as skilled as sellers. Unless you encounter an unreasonable son of luck. Otherwise, it is usually the seller's blood that makes the profit. The price of all the stones in the Shaguang Holy Land Stone Workshop, combined, is roughly 2 to 3 million pounds. But the actual value is not that high. Mining in mining areas is done by ordinary cultivators or ordinary people, who are already engaged in unprofitable transactions. Smashing the shaking stone archway, slapping the face is slapping the face, but the loss to them is not significant, which also meets our deterrence needs. Faced with a warning from an imperial army, the shaking light Holy Land will also weigh its gains and losses, with a balance in its heart. At most, it will be a friction between affiliated forces, causing some deaths, and after a while, it will subside. After a rational and objective evaluation by the holy master of the Jiang family, he gradually felt that smashing the stone workshop of the Shaguang Holy Land was not a big deal. Of course, insurance measures still need to be implemented. Alas, wait for the notice to be issued, so that the members of the family can stay alert and be prepared for the retaliatory action of shake the light. The Lord commands. Yes. An elder nodded, indicating his understanding of the thoughts of the Holy Lord. That's it. The Holy Lord sighed lightly and looked at Jiang Yifei. Yifei, you have chosen your own path. We don't have much to persuade you, we just hope you cannot forget your true heart and not be blinded by power. Yifei understands. The young man nodded and accepted the advice of his predecessors. That's good. The Holy Lord took a deep breath, then his eyes turned cold and he said to the elders, let's go down and arrange. Destroy the holy city stone archway of the shaking light holy land and give a clear warning to the inheritors of that lineage. Obedience. Several elders responded in unison. I'll also go with you. Jiang Yifei volunteered, I have the blood of my ancestors reviving in my body, which resonates with the Hengyu furnace and can alleviate the pressure of casting spells. Speaking of which, I haven't seen the true majestic posture of our ancestors' imperial soldiers yet. He smiled inexplicably. The Lord pondered for a long time before nodding in agreement, well, seeing the scene will be somewhat beneficial for your future path. The Jiang family was moved by a single thought. The mighty waves swept through, starting with a fishing trip, but no one knew how far it would go. That holy city is the center of the storm. The holy city of the northern regions is a magnificent giant city that covers an area of unknown miles. Since records began, this city has never been relocated, and it is unknown how many years it has existed. The first ancient city in the northern regions, the first divine city, are all its names. Legend has it that in that distant past, it was suspended in the air. In the northern region of the eastern wilderness, it is the absolute center, just as famous as the Taichu ancient mine, and is revered as a sacred place by the residents of this area. The place where it is located has long been influenced and transformed into a pure land, with an incredibly rich spiritual energy that makes people unable to feel the changes of the four seasons. And when the world truly sees the appearance of the ancient city again, it will be even more shocking. The city wall is like a green dragon lying horizontally, continuous, like a cast of copper water, shining with a metallic luster. The magnificent city gate tower, reaching a height of 100 meters, is majestic and extremely magnificent. From a distance, the huge ancient city brings a suffocating sense of oppression. Jiang Yifei rode a divine spear and swaggered through the market under the protection of experts from the Jiang family, embarking on this ancient pure land. During this process, he saw everything very fresh. A civilization has its own charm. He sighed inwardly, silently contrasting with the prosperity he had experienced in his past life, but each had its own advantages. Starting from today, I will truly touch the pulse of this civilization. He tearfully said, breaking free from the heavy sea of academic hardship. Teenagers also have troubles. His physique and bloodline are noble, but it also gives him great hope. In the Jiang family, there are many things that Jiang Yifei needs to learn, including the scriptures of his ancestors, common knowledge of cultivation, understanding of various natural materials and treasures, and an introduction to the cultivation of various skills. Not necessarily proficient, but a foundation is always necessary. Even immortals need to read books. He once mourned, but was sternly lectured by the elderly family member in charge of teaching, of course. Take the most basic literacy as an example. Every era is undergoing changes, and each ethnic group is different. Different civilizations have vastly different ways of understanding heaven and earth, and their written languages are also diverse. I can't read, even if the imperial scriptures of other ethnic groups are presented to you, you can't understand them. One day, you will enter the starry sky and embark on a journey of God's path like your ancestors. By chance, you will encounter an opportunity, but you will miss it because you cannot read. Isn't it a pity? The old man's words were very reasonable, leaving Jiang Yifei speechless. After all, it is indeed so. Text carries civilization and records the experiences of each ethnic group in understanding the world. It is necessary to have a clear understanding, even if it is the most basic beginner. How can we understand the essence of the cultivation of all ethnic groups and lay the foundation for creating our own Tao one day? The avian demon race, with wings and flying vertically and horizontally, is a realization that ordinary people find difficult to feel. The fish and dragon entered the water, diving deep into the vast sea, reaching out to the deepest and silent mysteries. These ethnic species, even if they record the mystical practices, still stand from their own perspective and have insights that other races may find incomprehensible. To understand, it is necessary to systematically classify and comprehend, and know the proprietary terms. This is also an invisible barrier between the Orthodox sect's holy land and the scattered practice. They may not always come in handy. But once used, the gap will widen. Jiang family with a deep family background. This is a great imperial family, whose ancestors fought in the starry sky and had too much knowledge. All these things have become the foundation of the family. Jiang Yifei was immersed in it, both passively and actively. Because times are changing, the ancient ethnic groups need to revive. The common writing and language of that era were completely different from today. When he rescues and excavates, if he doesn't recognize words and damages any treasure, wouldn't he have to cry to death? Fortunately, the benefits that belong to cultivators come in handy during learning. Practice, unlocking various human potentials, including wisdom, memory, understanding, cognition. Jiang Yifei is immersed in various fields, unforgettable, and can be considered a top genius. After years of hard work, he finally graduated by chance. Taking advantage of the turning point of the Jiang family's massive ship, which was causing trouble, he was able to come out and be active. Jiang Yifei finds everything novel. After all, it is the most prosperous place in the northern regions. In the holy city, the temples are adjacent, the ancient streets are wide, and there is everything from the gambling stone workshop, the immortal tower, the Fengyue palace, the Holy Lord's palace, and the Demon King's pavilion, all of which are extremely luxurious, mixed with mortals and cultivators. Half of the people coming and going in the city are cultivators. In such a place, perhaps throwing a stone casually would hit a descendant of an ancient family, or even an elder figure in the Holy Land. Jiang Yifei was dazzled by the sight, but suddenly his eyes lit up. He could see the willows swaying, the blue lake stretching across the sky, and the light, wind, and moon shining brightly, not mixing with the secular world. The dragon boat and phoenix pavilion roamed on top of it, the music of silk and bamboo never stopped. He was ecstatic, his eyebrows fluttering, his voice lowered, and asked the skilled guards around him, "Is this the land of wind and moon in the holy city? Does it look interesting?" The guard hesitated to speak, and finally nodded helplessly after a while, "Yes. This is the land of wind and moon, called the Wonderful Desire Temple. I heard that there are 10 places of wind and moon in the holy city, and Miaoyue Temple is among them." Jiang Yifei groped his chin, showing a very interested expression on his face. He is a serious person, whether in this life or in his past life, and has never been to such a place. At this moment, seeing such a scene of moral corruption, a righteous aura surges in my heart, and I really want to go in and criticize those who are only dressed in clothes. Zhaoshuyuan.com. As soon as Jiang Yifei lifted his chin, he wanted to move around. Just before he could leave, the guard covered his face and pulled him down, "Young master. This decadent sound is not good for young people like you. Triggered by delusions and lustful thoughts, it hinders the clarity of the spiritual essence and hinders cultivation. And if there is really any promiscuity, there may be bad rumors in the clan that unexpected offspring are born." The guard dug his heart and lungs, patiently speaking. How could that be? Jiang Yifei waved his sleeve and said, "My generation can be called the Golden Age. Young people are getting better and better each time. Which young person can't withstand such a test? What kind of decadent music, what kind of yellow text with colorful pictures? Sitting in the arms of a beautiful woman, leaving a deep impression in the heart of the road. The vast expanse of the mortal world is just a place for me to refine my heart." He spoke with righteousness, and his voice was resounding and powerful, as for the bloodline of the offspring. Jiang Yifei's tone became mournful. "I really doubt that those elderly people in the family would like me to cultivate the world. Chasing the bloodline of the emperor and returning to the ancestors, the top protected species of the Jiang family. What should be done about such rare things? Of course. Reproduction. Give birth to him in the 10s or 20s. Reproduction is the most important thing. Like my human race, why can it be so brilliant that even the great emperor can produce dozens?" He sighed and opened up the scene, overlooking the era. "Isn't it just about being able to make a living? Those ancient ethnic groups, who can compare with my human race?" The more Jiang Yifei said, the more excited he became, as if he had mastered the truth of the world. "You said it well." On the side, someone applauded vigorously and cheered for him.